Environmental considerations, so radiation is a big one. Radiation is such a huge one. I had a client not so long ago, about 2 months ago, who had sudden onset migraines. She couldn't work out why. And I said, well, outside your unit, did they install a telecom transmitting tower or something like that? She said, I'm not sure. So, okay, get a device, a radiation detection device. Purchase that for starters before you purchase any other equipment, any other blocking equipment, which can be very, very expensive. Purchase that device. She did, found high levels of radiation right throughout her home. Smart electric meters produce a lot of radiation. Our mobile phones, they produce a lot of radiation. Wi-Fi devices, electronic transformers, they all produce a lot of radiation. So radiation minimization is really important.
Hi there, welcome to the replay of our after hours discussions with professional coaches. Your exclusive complimentary Sunday session for all of our community around the world, where coaching minds unite with our people to create real world results. I am Adrian Cahill, your host and founder of the Motivate community, and more recently, Monday Morning Motivation. As a global trainer in NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, coaching, and hypnosis, this weekly gathering brings some of my colleagues from trainings, my fellow students and coaches all together in one place where we can discuss, share, help change the world by delivering free, quality information that's here to help you transform.
So today's topic, reclaiming your life, a natural approach to migraine freedom. And they do actually feel like they're a trap. Those migraine sufferers, if they're frequent migraines, they really do feel like they just control our lives. It's a really difficult condition to live with. I'm just finding my cursor now.
If I have a migraine, my number one focus is doing whatever I can to get rid of it. The rest of life goes on hold.
Exactly, yeah. So welcome to today's presentation, Migraines and Mindset. So mindset is actually really important with migraines because as good as some naturopaths out there are, we can share information. If the clients don't apply it, then it's actually useless. We could pay thousands of dollars for the best natural medicine practitioner in the world, and if the client doesn't have the mindset for it, then it's useless. So mindsets are particularly coaching. I'm a coach myself, and I've employed coaches, many coaches over the years. Coaching for the change of this mindset is so very important. That's why I've got the second line there. It's titled Migraines and Mindset. Of naturopaths in the world, there aren't that many people at all, not that many naturopaths at all, who focus on migraines. That's because they are so difficult to treat. There's so many different causes for them, and it takes quite a while for people to stick to a program to actually work out what's working and what's not. And so many people give up without continuing on more than a few weeks or a few months. And that's why I'm one of the few naturopaths who actually focus on natural migraine treatment. Dedicated almost, as you can see there, about 3 decades to research and helping people find natural solutions to this it really is an incredibly debilitating condition. So I'd like to invite you to join me, where I'll help you understand the impact of migraines, both economically and socially, and more importantly, empowering individuals with practical and natural strategies to regain control over your or our health and our life, or the lives and health of friends, if you want to pass on some good tips from today's presentation. So a little bit about me. I have a Bachelor of Health Science and Advanced Diploma in Natural Medicine. and a researcher into natural migraine treatment. My journey into natural treatment of migraines began 30 years ago, led to a massive quest into a deeper understanding of the body's innate healing capabilities. You can see there the jet behind me, that was my former profession. So it involved a massive change in my profession to become from a jet pilot to a naturopath practitioner. And unfortunately for me, I was still experiencing bad headaches when I was flying on occasions. I just wouldn't fly with a bad headache, but so they obviously had improved by the time I got to flying these little jets here. When I first got them, I was confronted with the frustration of going to doctors, all these different doctors who prescribed the kind of pill for every ill approach. After getting effectively nowhere, I then focused on identifying the root causes, the primary health causes of migraines, and then particularly natural therapies in order to restore the balance within the body and significantly reduce the migraine attacks. So we have, as you can see, a number of different types of headaches. I've got, I won't read through the lot in detail. If anybody wants a screenshot of that for your own interest later, certainly take a screenshot. The ones I'll be focusing on today are bottom right, the migraines, intense throbbing pain. It states they usually accompanied by nausea, but it could be either nausea or vomiting or light sensitivity. It could be a sound sensitivity, where sound comes into the ear and it feels like it's been amplified 3 or 4 or 5 times, and then it feels like it's just bouncing around in the head. There's tension headaches that can start in the back of the neck and then progress across a band across the front of the forehead. And migraines and cluster headaches. So you can see cluster headaches on the second from the top on the right side there. Cluster headaches are fairly similar in migraines with some subtle differences. If you look at bottom left, sinus headache, it can actually feel like a migraine. So sinus headache, particularly when we're flying, the pressure change in the sinuses can be so intense, it can actually feel like a migraine. And then sinus headache, as you can see, can also be induced by tumours within the pressuring down on the sinus cavities as well. So there are actually quite a lot of different types of headaches. So this one's actually really important. When to seek medical attention. If anybody's just tuned in recently and you have any questions, do feel free to jump in and I'll address those. Otherwise, do write them down. We'll have plenty of time at the end to address questions as well. So this slide is particularly important. You may want a screenshot of this one. When to seek medical attention. So if your headache is sudden, severe, or explosive. Now, on the previous slide, I did cover, I can't get back to it, but I did cover something called, I actually forgot the name. Trigeminal neuralgia. That is actually a really sudden headache, and it affects one side of the face. It can start here and go down here, and particularly across here. It can give the symptoms of stroke. So it can drip the face. The nose might not expand. The eye may even droop a little bit, have red flushing across there. So that's not the sudden headache that you should seek medical attention about if it is a trigeminal neuralgia. If it's a headache and it is sudden, severe, or explosive, apart from those symptoms I just described with trigeminal neuralgia, then definitely seek medical attention and diagnosis for that, because it could be something very serious. If it's the worst headache you've ever had, if you experience confusion, vision changes, development of blind spots, slurred speech, or loss of balance. This is advised to seek medical attention if those symptoms occur, I have had a client who got migraines. He was actually a medical practitioner, he was a doctor, and he was sure that he was having a stroke. He had all the symptoms of stroke. He couldn't speak, he couldn't verbalize. He actually went to write instructions down to somebody else that he was with at the time to call an ambulance because he was sure that he was having a stroke. So don't delay treatment for a stroke if you think it is just a migraine. If it is a stroke, then early intervention and treatment is actually really important. So another time to seek medical attention if your headache is associated with fever, stiff neck, nausea, or vomiting. As I mentioned on an earlier slide, nausea and vomiting are actually common symptoms of a migraine. Now, if the headache follows a head injury, if you have cancer or immune disorder, or if you develop new symptoms, particularly if it's localized in one eye with redness. However, as said previously, that's also a symptom of trigeminal neuralgia, is spreading across here, very sudden onset. It's localized in one eye with redness, drooping, extreme pain, sudden onset, sudden clearing, can last for 5 minutes or longer with trigeminal neuralgia. So it can be hard to determine when to seek medical attention, but here's a guideline. And then if you're over 50 and have new headaches. I'll just pause there for a moment and see if anybody has any questions.
It is, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Yeah, it's very debilitating to have migraines. I have silent migraine and tension migraines. And when the silent comes, it's going to last for a few days, and I need prednisone to break the cycle of that.
I'm not sure if it's the speaker here. I'm sorry, you're breaking up a little bit. It could be my system. I did get silent migraines, and then I did miss the description that you shared after that.
Silent and tension, and when I have silent migraines, it can easily last for a week, 10 days, where I need prednisone to break the cycle.
Cortisol, right, yes. And for the people watching, silent migraines are migraine that they still affect the brain, the slight increase of blood flow to pressure at the brain. But rather than getting the headache, silent migraines are typically affecting other areas of the body. Are you happy to describe briefly the symptoms that you get of silent migraines?
They suddenly happen, to be honest. I never noticed my body, but now that you mention it, but I've never noticed like arm hurt, or I've never, but I feel it in my face and in my nose, here in the sinuses. It feels like pressure, and my eyes they hurt. Like when I press on my eyeballs, they hurt.
Right, yeah, so pressure behind the eyes and the sinuses around the face. So typically not what people would think of migraines, but silent migraines, which I didn't cover so far, are different, but they're still got the same triggers and the same causes as other types of migraines, and still terrible condition. And as you said, can last for 10 days in a row. And if I heard correctly, it takes cortisol to overcome the cycle of the silent migraines. Yeah, thank you very much for sharing that. So the same tips that apply for any migraine will apply for the silent migraines for you as well. Cost of migraine, economic and personal burden. So to individuals, people who get migraines reasonably frequently, it makes life very, very difficult because of food intolerances. It's difficult traveling. It's difficult flying if we make an appointment for a flight, and then the day before, as we've just heard, someone might get a silent migraine, and then to travel with any sort of migraine is a it's a terrible personal burden. Making plans with people is actually very difficult, and it's like just social plans to catch up with people for dinner, or local holidays, or to have social events with them, to go hiking for a day, simple things like that. It's actually very, very challenging. So that's a personal burden. The economic burden on the individuals themselves, lost work, on companies, the economic burden is massive. In the EU alone, the estimated cost is around 30 billion euro annually. So types of migraines: common migraine, it's the most common type. Throbbing head pain. Frequently migraine is one side, the cluster headache is often both sides. Can be accompanied, as I mentioned also earlier, nausea, vomiting, light or sound sensitivity. Can last from a few hours to many days. For people who have migraines, they think, wow, if it lasts for a few hours, that people are actually really lucky if it just lasts for a few hours. Then migraine with aura, or classic migraine. Less than half experience an aura. Neurological symptoms, apart from headache, include flashes of lights or other visual disturbances, tingling or numbness in the face, or could also...
The share isn't quite working.
Right. I'll just try that share again. And then we get back.
I love when Zoom does these updates. I can see the whole screen.
Right. Sorry about this, guys.
It's a state practice. Gotta get the full screen there. Change that display around.
Right. Okay. Perfect. Thanks, Adrian. So the aura is flicking lights or visual disturbances, tingling or numbness in the face or the arm. It can occasionally be a feeling of a twitching in the arm, but when you look down, that there's actually no twitching there. That can be an aura. I mentioned before about symptoms that mimic stroke, so difficulty speaking or even finding words. Less common types include menstrual migraines, hemiplegic migraines, which is hemiplegic is half of one side of or half of the side of the body. Vestibular migraines. So vestibular is balance system, so affecting the balance. Abdominal migraine, so nausea and vomiting, and that can be accompanied with a headache, or in terms of silent migraines, the nausea and vomiting may be caused by a migraine, but without the typical headache pain that we think of with a migraine. So natural medicine seeks to address the actual cause of the migraines. So conventional medicine, the focus is on symptom management. So a lot of people who suffer really bad migraines, they consult with a neurologist. The neurologists are great at addressing the acute symptoms of migraine. Natural medicine is not quite as good as the neurologists are at addressing the short-term symptoms. Where natural medicine comes into its shine and really shines in its approach is long-term treatment. So natural medicine seeks to address why the migraines are happening. As natural medicine practitioners, we focus on identifying and addressing the underlying causes, imbalances, and triggers that set the stage for the migraine attack. Of course, it isn't just about masking symptoms, it's about fostering true healing and resilience in the body. So I did mention about medication. There's a lot of different medications for migraine. Some of them are very, very strong. Typically, the stronger the herb or the nutrient or the drug, typically the stronger that is, the higher likelihood there is of side effects. So that's the downside of having medication for migraines. With medication also, because it often does mask the symptoms but not the underlying cause, there can be rebound headaches, which can be just awful, very, very intense. And then with continual use of drugs, the effect can taper off over time. And also the side effects of the drugs can affect, for example, the liver, which then can result in migraines down the track being much worse than what they were if people hadn't taken the drugs. Now, I understand people taking medication, they take it because they're in extreme pain. I totally understand that, and hence my suggestion that neurologists, they can actually be very helpful sometimes. So food is one of the biggest triggers of many migraines. So common culprits for food, and then I'll be discussing elimination diet. Common triggers include caffeine. Caffeine's an interesting one because caffeine actually helps to constrict the arteries in the neck slightly.
Sorry, Mark. We were having an okay. This is a pretty good session up until this slide. Can you delete that first one? Thank you. Caffeine. I mean, you're going to break our hearts here. You're going to say caffeine and coffee. It could be a trigger.
I broke up, did it?
No, I'm just a bit disgraced that you put caffeine in there.
Oh.
Anyone else offended by
that?
Yeah, I take on the ATM.
Yes. Yeah. You guys who hopefully don't suffer from migraines, you don't have an issue. Caffeine actually has a lot of antioxidants in there. So it has upsides and it has downsides. So caffeine, sometimes people with migraines are actually prescribed caffeine capsules because it actually does constrict the vessels, and so it can actually be quite an effective symptomatic treatment for migraines. So if people consume caffeine without a migraine, it can be a trigger. If you have a migraine, try caffeine certainly, because sometimes it may help. And as with many of these things, if you try it and it does help, right? If you try it and it doesn't help, don't think that it will never help, because sometimes, depending on the migraine in the head or in the body, may even still feel exactly the same. But it seems that there might be a tiny bit of difference, and I don't know exactly what that difference is. Several of the people have tried many of these things. Sometimes they work and sometimes they don't. It can be very disheartening when they don't, and it can be disheartening to the point where people never try that thing again. My suggestion is to keep trying, because next time that thing that I have listed here that didn't help last time, it may actually help this time. So caffeine is one. Cheeses are a big trigger for migraines.
No.
Having said that, I've had several clients who they avoid cheese, they avoid chocolate, alcohol, all the really nice things in life. They avoid all those and they still get the migraines. So they go back to consuming them. My recommendation, very strong recommendation, is if you avoid something, avoid it for a minimum of 2 weeks. Even if in that 2-week period you only have a small amount, reset that 2 weeks. The biggest triggers being the ones I've listed on the left side. There have been the caffeine, cheeses, cured meats, chocolate, alcohol,
Cheese
and
or orange
canola.
juice, white cheese or
Cheese.
yellow cheese. Is it worse or they're the same?
I found that any cheese. So
Okay.
cheese has a double whammy. It has two things in there which would trigger migraines. I have listed here tyramine, and it's also histamine. So cheese is actually a big one because it's got the double whammy. And whether it be the light cheese, like for example, even sour cream, any fermented foods, which I don't think I actually listed there, but they're a trigger as well. So thank you for raising that question, because anything that's fermented, the fermentation process, even though it's very beneficial, very good for probiotics, for digestion. Sauerkraut, for example, is fermented. It has high levels of vitamin C, which is fantastic. However, let food be thy medicine. Yes, thank you. So with the white cheese, yes, unfortunately, bad news for those cheese lovers. Avoid all cheese. And the biggest triggers I mentioned are those ones listed on the left, but also canola oil. Canola oil is a huge trigger in some people. Others, they find it doesn't trigger them at all. It's one that's difficult to pin down because it is in so many food products. A lot of restaurants use canola oil. When you buy a lot of processed foods from the supermarket, most of them contain canola oil. Dips, the lovely tasting dips, they have 90 to 95% of them have canola oil. It's actually hidden also in some spray cans. If you find that canola oil is a trigger, it can still be hidden sometimes in spray oil. So even olive oil spray, it doesn't list it on the ingredients, but has a little bit of canola in there as an anticoagulant. So there are some triggers which will be very, very hard to identify. So if you have migraines that are debilitating and you just can't identify where it's coming from, it could be a hidden trigger. So as I mentioned, avoid these common triggers for a minimum of 2 weeks, and preferably, if you can, if you're willing to avoid them for about 4 weeks, that would be ideal. When you do introduce, because people won't be intolerant, well, some people are intolerant to all these things. Not everybody will be intolerant to every single thing on this list. So when you do reintroduce them one at a time. Give it about maybe 3 or 4, even up to 7 days before introducing the next one. So as mentioned, the most common ones, the list on the left, plus canola oil. The less common ones, artificial sweeteners, for example, aspartame, MSG, monosodium glutamate. And in Australia, that is coded 621. So when you look on the ingredients, it's 621. Citrus fruits. So oranges are quite a common trigger. And also, I've listed there almonds, but many nuts are actually triggers. So cashews, beyond just a very small quantity, cashews can be a trigger. Macadamia nuts, as lovely as they taste, they can be quite a strong trigger as well. Any questions before I go on to the next slide?
No, I'm just incredibly grateful I can eat these things. Makes me really grateful that for all the things I can eat. And every day I go to a kid's school, there's signs about so and so's got allergies or this food or that food. Grateful to be able to eat so much food and have so much food at our doorsteps safely. Thanks.
It is wonderful. It's so wonderful, just taking for granted that we can just eat the food that we want. When I travel, particularly when I travel with other people, they say to me, "Wow, I never knew how difficult it was for you to just get by." So, for example, I go skiing. Well, prior to COVID, I used to go skiing in New Zealand fairly frequently. On the ski fields, there was effectively nothing that I could eat. 95 or 98% of the restaurants or so in Queenstown, they would use canola oil. It was very, very difficult. Even traveling through Sydney Airport sometimes, the only thing I can eat in the whole airport is some juice. I'm very thankful for that juice. But it'd just be lovely to sit down at a restaurant, not have to be really strict with them about the allergies, and just eat. And of course, migraines aren't the only allergies as well. Many people have all sorts of different types of allergies. So I did cover this one, identify the food triggers, minimum 2 weeks, preferably 4 weeks, then reintroduce them every 3 days, even up to 7 days, because when you reintroduce something, it could take more than 3 days for it to trigger a migraine. And so you may think, oh, I'm actually safe with this food. I can keep consuming this food in the future. That may not necessarily be the case. And then the point that I have there is ensure that you track your symptoms in a migraine diary. It's actually a really good one. There's actually many reasons for a migraine diary. And one of them is for a record of your own food consumption. The reason being that it could take 3 days of accumulation within the body or more. For example, histamine takes actually up to 7 days, if not longer in some individuals, to be cleared out of the body. So you might be consuming some histamine-rich foods, not get a migraine, and then in about 7 days from now, consume just one more item of food that has a little bit of histamine in there, and that could put you over the edge. So the migraine diary can actually go back then 7 days. Okay, what have I been doing for the previous week to trigger these ones? So the migraine diary can be an invaluable tool. In addition to your own investigation, the migraine diary can be very valuable for your medical professionals, particularly neurologists. If you walk into a neurologist with a detailed migraine diary, your first appointment will almost certainly go a lot better than what it would have if you walk in there unprepared without the migraine diary. If you know anything about neurologists, they charge a lot of money. So if you can make your appointment as efficient as possible, then you'll be much better off. So there's quite a few reasons for wanting to record a migraine diary. I've got there the last note. You need to become your own best detective. So several years ago, I was getting quite bad headaches, but I wasn't doing anything different. I thought about it. I went back through my diary, detailed records, and I thought, okay, when am I getting them? What is triggering it? What is different? What has been different from the last few months that I wasn't doing previously? So being your own best detective, I thought about it. It took me a while to work it out, but I thought, I wonder if it's actually a blockage in the dishwasher. And because what was occurring was I would only get them the day after I ate food at home. I could eat at restaurants, no problem at all. Every time I ate at home, the next day I would get a headache. So, and the only thing that I could put it down to was the dishwasher. So in order to work out that it was the dishwasher, after it had finished a cycle and it went on a dry cycle, the heat cycle, and the heat cycle would destroy all the evidence. It would destroy all the bubbles or the suds in the dishwasher. After it finished a full cycle, I put it on just one rinse cycle, which didn't have the drying cycle at the end. I found the dishwasher to have about that much of bubbles in the bottom of it. So I realized the dishwasher wasn't draining. So it's recommended not to use harsh drain blocking cleansers in the dishwasher. So what I did is I got some sodium bicarbonate and poured half a box of that in there. It's quite a lot. That alone was enough to clean out the blockage. I tried the dishwasher again and it worked fine. So being your own detective, there's a lot to it sometimes. I'll just check on the time. I might have to be a little bit quicker. I'm sharing a lot of information now. But so beyond food, other triggers, stress is a big trigger. Sleep disturbances. So sleep disturbances can be a difficult one because either too little or too much sleep can be a migraine trigger. Hormonal fluctuations, especially for women, and those women, I really feel for them who get menstrual headaches. I'm sure that you put up with enough already with menstrual issues, so that to then get menstrual migraines as well would just be awful. Changes to estrogen commonly have an impact because that's hormonal fluctuations. Dehydration. So this is a common one for headaches. It's a dehydration headache, which are not migraines, but dehydration headaches can be intense. They can actually mimic migraines. I've had many, many people say to me, "Oh, I've got the cure for migraines." Go out and drink 4 to 5 litres in a day. Drink about 2 litres or 3 litres within a 1 hour period, and then the rest of the day drink another 2 litres or so. Guarantee that will cure your migraines. They've said that to me, saying, yes, I've helped people, like about half a dozen people cure their migraines from drinking excessive amounts of water. 2 issues with that. The first issue is that it's a dehydration headache, not a typical migraine. And so people with the dehydration headaches, of course, that's going to assist that. The second issue is something very serious called hyponatremia. Na is the chemical symbol for sodium. Hyponatremia is low sodium. If you take too much water, dilute sodium levels in your body. Sodium is actually required for neurotransmitters to occur, including the heart. In order for the heart to pulse, it requires nerve signals. With too low level of sodium, you can actually die. People have actually died from drinking too much water. So be very careful about drinking excessive amounts of water. 5 or 6 litres in one day, that really is excessive. Unless someone's out working in the heat and sweating like crazy, no one should ever drink 5 or 6 litres of water in a day. Sensory triggers, bright lights, loud noises, strong smells, perfumes even, cleaning products, they can all trigger migraines. Weather changes, barometric pressure change can actually trigger a migraine. Honestly, I don't know if that's a sinus headache or a migraine, but people find it's actually fairly well known that weather changes can trigger the migraines. It could also be the atmospheric change just prior to a thunderstorm. The atmosphere changes with the electrical discharge and the buildup of static electricity in the environment, so that may be a trigger as well. Skipping meals, although when we have food triggered migraines, that's all we want to do. We don't even want to think about food. But then skipping meals, unfortunately, can be a trigger as well. And of course, some medications. So natural, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, a little bit garbled, but yes, I can hear.
Okay. Okay. Question. Now I forgot the fucking question. I forgot the question.
Oh, yeah. So I was talking about previously. I was talking about skipping meals, some medications, some weather changes. Does that trigger anything?
Thank you. People that are doing intermittent fasting, how do migraines go with intermittent fasting?
Oh, intermittent fasting. Yeah, really good question. So intermittent fasting is a very healthy thing to do. It helps the body to detox. It helps trigger autophagy after a minimum of about 48 hours. Autophagy is the breaking down of old cells to then get eliminated from the body, and then the body recycles the good components of the cells and creates new cells. So it's a very health-promoting activity. It's interesting that you bring up intermittent fasting because even though skipping meals can be a trigger, intermittent fasting as long as skipping meals is not a trigger for the migraines, intermittent fasting is a very health-promoting activity. People can sometimes think of intermittent fasting as being the time-limited eating. That's actually not intermittent fasting. And it's been found, I actually found one study on the time-limited, the narrow window of eating opportunity, maybe about 6-hour window of eating. Maybe they might have lunch at 12 noon and have dinner no later than 6 p.m. and then fast for the rest of the time. That type of fasting actually increases the risk of cardiovascular disease by quite a reasonable percentage, by something like 80% or so. Anybody who's interested in that, I do have reference to the study, just not in these slides, so you can email me. I'll have my email address right at the end of the presentation. Email me, and I can actually send you a copy of that study. Yeah, so thank you, Karina. That's a really good question. Did that answer your question?
Thank you. Oh, now I have another one. Now
Yes,
I have
certainly. Yeah.
talk about a menstrual cycle. I get migraines menstrual cycle, but I'm a menopause. So how are migraines affecting menopause or vice versa?
I'm sorry, it's really garbled. I'm not sure if it's my system.
Yes, yes. But I'm saying menopause.
Menopause, yes.
Yes. So migraines and menopause. What happens?
So typically during menopause, particularly women who have the menstrual headaches, as we get older, even men as well, as our hormones start to decrease as we get older, it's an unfortunate side effect of getting older. But one of the benefits is that typically when women go through menopause and they're stabilized the other side, typically without those hormonal fluctuations throughout the cycle, typically the migraines will reduce. It's very rare for the migraines to get worse as we get older. Hence that slide that I showed near the beginning of the presentation, that slide that I said was very important, that if you have these changes, to seek medical attention, sometimes at short notice, was that if we're 50 years or older and the migraines are getting worse, then seek medical attention. It is one of those important ones to consider. So, yeah, in answer to your question, Karina, typically they reduce as we get older and go through menopause. If they don't, then it could be that as we're getting older, the liver function, it starts to decrease. And so it could actually be not necessarily associated with the hormonal fluctuations, could be associated with toxicity. And so that's a perfect example of when fasting may be very beneficial and liver support. So great question. Thank you, Karina. And anyone else or any other questions, Karina, or anybody else?
Hello, I have a question.
Yes, Sunny, yep.
Yeah, sorry, my camera has a problem, so I also open turn on, but you can't see me. I don't know why.
That's okay.
Yeah, my question is, I just miss your content about the meal time. You say try to eat dinner before 6 p.m., but I miss the content before the dinner, the part. Can you say again? Thank you.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
So the one about dinner before 6 p.m. is if people, they think of intermittent fasting as a time-limited window. And so every day they limit their eating window. Instead of having breakfast at 7 and having their last meal around 7, so instead of having a 12-hour eating window, they time restrict it. And so they eat typically within a 6-hour window. It's called a TMAD, which is a 2-meal a day, or it's called an OMAD, O being 1, and it's 1 meal a day. So typically people may either have 1 meal a day, either have lunch only, that's the only meal they have for the entire day, or they have dinner only, maybe 6 p.m. It's their only meal for the day, or 2 meals in the day, which is within the 6-hour window, say lunch, for example, and then dinner. The risk with that, in regards to intermittent fasting, the risk is that it increases the chance of cardiovascular disease by 80%, if not even higher. So that was the part that you missed out on.
Thank you, thank you. So actually, so every day we eat 2 meals is okay. A breakfast and dinner, no lunch.
It is actually preferable to have lunch as well, to have 3 meals throughout the day. With intermittent fasting, the best way to do that one is to eat normally, like breakfast, preferably lunch, but breakfast and dinner if you don't have time for lunch. And then 1 day or 2 days within a week, typically no more frequently than that, go for a whole 36-hour period of not eating. So that's
Okay,
actually intermittent fasting.
all right.
Intermittent fasting every several weeks, maybe every 2 or 3 months, you can actually go for 3 full days without eating, and that will trigger the autophagy, which is the one where it breaks down old cells and sends them off for recycling. And it's very health promoting, is that process called autophagy. And then there's people who do very long fasts, like for example, 7-day or 10-day or even 14, 21-day fast. I don't recommend that. I can actually get on another call and talk about fasting if people are interested in that. There's actually a very good reason why I don't recommend anything more than about 5 days in a row. It starts to become potentially not beneficial at all. Great
Okay.
questions. Thank you. Thank you for
Thank
that.
you, thank you.
Yeah. So nutritional therapies, supplements and foods. Magnesium. So magnesium is an interesting one because often we hear magnesium, we think, okay, I'll go ahead and take magnesium. Quite frequently we'll opt for the cheapest form, and I don't blame people for doing so. The cheapest form is typically magnesium oxide. If you think about it, magnesium oxide is the magnesium form of rust. Rust is iron oxide. So you're taking magnesium rust effectively. It doesn't get absorbed. It could cause diarrhea and is just not beneficial at all. So the two I have recommended here are magnesium citrate and magnesium glycinate. They're the two most common well-absorbed ones. There is another one which is fantastic, and it does get absorbed across the blood-brain barrier, so it may be very beneficial in terms of migraines. It is called magnesium threonate. The next one, riboflavin, that's vitamin B2. 400 milligrams daily is actually a very high dosage. And so if you take it, you might think, well, I take a multivitamin, quite a good quality one, that has B vitamins in there and fairly high strength B vitamins. Most good quality multivitamins will have between 25, or if it's a really good concentration, will have 50 milligrams of B2 daily. So even a really good one, you'll have to take 8 multivitamins a day. If you do that, that can become problematic because vitamins B6, it needs to get converted into another form in the body. And the vitamin B6 in supplement form in high levels can actually contribute to neuralgia or nerve disease, tingling in the fingers and extremities of the body, so fingers and toes, and then progress along the body. So I recommend against taking high doses of a multivitamin because of the potential for B6 toxicity. So in order to get the 400 milligrams daily of riboflavin, you need to take an individual B2 or riboflavin supplement, and even then supplement it also with a multivitamin or a broad spectrum B vitamin. The reason being, when we take B vitamins, they work synergistically, as in they typically work with each other. So if we take one B vitamin in the absence of taking others, it can upset the balance of all the B vitamins. So coenzyme Q10 is a fantastic antioxidant, very good for reducing frequency and duration of migraines. Around 100 milligrams of Q10 is ideal. Butterbur, great for migraine pain. It does contain, as you said, the name pyrrolizidine alkaloids. They can be toxic to the liver. So you want one, if you are going to try Butterbur, you want one that is pyrrolizidine alkaloid free or PA free. Feverfew is great. The quality varies significantly. And so if you take Feverfew, the best way to take it is to actually grow it yourself. And the Feverfew flower is in that image. That's on the left of that image. You can see the bottom of the screen there. That's a Feverfew flower. It is of the same plant family as Echinacea. So if someone's allergic to Echinacea, they need to be very cautious with Feverfew. And I think dandelion as well, maybe the same plant family. So if someone's allergic to either of those three, either Feverfew or Echinacea or dandelion, they do need to be really careful with taking Feverfew. Even if someone's not allergic, it does have other side effects as well. So one side effect is it does reduce something called platelet aggravating factor. It can lead to weakening of blood vessels and tiny little, they're called petechiae along the skin. They can be tiny, bright red little, tiny little blood blisters is what they look like. That could be an indication that someone's taking too much Feverfew. There are a few other side effects as well. Probably not as strong as the side effects from traditional medication, but there can actually be a lot of side effects. So people need to exercise caution when taking Feverfew in the long term. Ginger can be fantastic, particularly not just with nausea, but for other symptoms of migraine. And ginger is great for digestion, so it increases health overall. Omega-3 fatty acids, fatty fish in particular. People, of course, can be allergic to fish, in which case flax seeds and walnuts can be good sources of omega-3. Reducing omega-6 can be a benefit. Omega-6 is very, very high in our diet. Ideally, we would have a ratio of omega-3 to omega-6 of about 1 to 1. Our diet, the Western diet, is about 20 units of omega-6 for every 1 unit of omega-1. Omega-6 is very high in grains, so bad luck to those people who love their bread. I'm really sharing a lot of bad news today. I'm trying to eliminate your cheese, your alcohol, your chocolate, all those other really nice things in life, the fermented foods. And now I'm telling you to minimize your consumption of grains and other foods high in omega-6 as well. Some red meat can be high in omega-6. Chicken can be high in omega-6 because of the grains that they feed the animals. So there's some foods that can be beneficial. So it's very hard in our diet to get the ratio of 1 to 1 omega-3 to omega-6, in which case a good quality supplement, such as the one I've got in the little image there on the far right, good quality supplement can be extremely beneficial. With supplements, the quality varies significantly. If it tastes really fishy, don't continue to take it. It's often right on the edge of turning rancid. If it repeats on you, it can also, particularly if you burp it up and it's like, oh, that is disgusting. That's typically indication of either poor quality or it's been stored for too long. So supplementation can be great, but it can be very difficult to determine a good one.
Yeah, Mark.
Yeah.
Not specifically for migraines, but as with your knowledge, what's your thoughts on having the CQ10 fish oil daily and having ginger in that daily? Do you think, would you suggest having these things daily for those that want the supplements, or can you go on and off supplements? Not for migraines, just your general health for 40, 50, 60-year-old gentleman or woman.
Yeah, so general health, that's a really good question, because general health, CoQ10 is fantastic. My grandfather was on Lipitor, I think it was, and some other cholesterol-lowering medication. Cholesterol actually stops the body's natural production of CoQ10. CoQ10 is required for energy production in the body. My granddad got so much energy, he ended up with some physical injuries because he had so much energy, he was out doing some physical work. So for people on cholesterol-lowering medication in particular, they would most likely greatly benefit from CoQ10 and the fish oil. Be a bit careful with the fish oil, particularly if someone's on a cholesterol-lowering medication, because it can interfere with the cholesterol-lowering medication. It can make the blood too thin, particularly warfarin. Anytime we have clients come to us and they're on warfarin, it's a bit of a headache for us because we think, oh, warfarin is contraindicated with so many medications. So it's a really important point that you raise. Typically, a healthy person on daily doses of CoQ10, even every second day of CoQ10, because it does last in the body for a little while, like as in several days, and the fish oil, typically great. The ginger, it is actually quite a strong herb. Typically, the stronger the herb, the less frequently we'd want to take it. It can actually, because they've got a lot of volatile oils in there, which are fantastic, but because it is so strong, it has the potential to build up an allergy over time. But great question. Thank you for asking. Lifestyle modifications. I mentioned before about sleep. So consistent sleep schedule, particularly going to bed at the same time every night. I'm very guilty of not doing this myself. Guilty of a few things. This is one of them. Of great benefit is a consistent sleep schedule, going to bed at the same time every night, and preferably waking up at approximately the same time every day as well. Ensure good sleep hygiene. What good sleep hygiene means is a dark room. Years ago, my mum stayed at a friend's place, and the room was completely blacked out. Had guards over the windows. They completely blacked out the light. She said after a few days, she just felt fantastic. She thought, why on earth do I feel so great with sleeping here? And she worked out it was the dark room. So sleeping in a dark room can make a big difference. If you can't afford the shutters, get things like black sheets and just peg them around the curtain to block out as much light as possible. If you regulate the temperature, the figures are something like 23 degrees Celsius, and I don't know what these in Fahrenheit, but around 23 degrees Celsius is ideal for sleep. Noise can be a difficult one to control. And if noise is an issue, a way to improve sleep hygiene is to just play background noise. So there's something called pink noise, and pink noise can actually improve the memory. It can actually reinforce the memories from the experiences we've had during the day, can reinforce them into long-term memory overnight when we sleep. So that's pink noise. There's white noise and there's brown noise as well. But pink noise can be beneficial. If you just play a bit of pink noise in the background, that can then mask some traffic noise and some other noises that you might experience throughout the night. Regular moderate exercise, stress management. So chronic stress is a powerful migraine trigger. If you experience chronic stress, mindfulness and meditation, apps like Headspace or Calm may be of assistance. Deep breathing can be fantastic, not only for reducing long-term stress, but it can actually be sometimes a fantastic, not a cure, but a symptomatic relief for short-term migraines. So deep breathing exercise can be really fantastic for a number of reasons as well. Continued lifestyle modifications, yoga and Tai Chi. Biofeedback. So Adrian has a device, heart rate monitor. If you have time, I'd love for him to talk about it a little bit at the end. It's a heart variability monitor. So the better our health, the more variability we'll have in our heart rate. It seems the opposite of what you would think logically, but a healthy heart, its rate varies very rapidly, even between heartbeats. It's been stated that with heart rate variability, and this still relates to biofeedback, that the practitioners can estimate the lifespan of a person within 2 years based on their heart rate variability. So this device that Adrian has to measure heart rate variability, it's fantastic. So biofeedback device, there are a number of biofeedback devices that you can get. Coaching and counseling, they can be fantastic for a number of reasons. We are all human. We all do things that are bad for us. Coaching can help uncover maybe some of the shadow values, maybe some of the habits that we're not doing so well that we would like to change. coaching and counseling, really fantastic for habit changes, for reducing stress, for so many things, even if it's a habit of not being able to get to sleep at night or not meditating on a regular basis. I personally struggle with not meditating terribly. Over even just the last 12 months, I've employed maybe around 10 coaches, and that's helped me massively. So now I meditate about an hour, an average of an hour a day, sometimes a fair bit more. Regular meals, I mentioned that before. Environmental considerations, so radiation is a big one. Radiation is such a huge one. I had a client not so long ago, about 2 months ago, who had sudden onset migraines. She couldn't work out why. And I said, well, outside your unit, did they install a telecom transmitting tower or something like that? She said, I'm not sure. So, okay, get a device, a radiation detection device. Purchase that for starters before you purchase any other equipment, any other blocking equipment, which can be very, very expensive. Purchase that device. She did, found high levels of radiation right throughout her home. Smart electric meters produce a lot of radiation. Our mobile phones, they produce a lot of radiation. Wi-Fi devices, electronic transformers, they all produce a lot of radiation. So radiation minimization is really important. This client I had just within the last few months, I didn't even discuss any of these food triggers or stress triggers or anything like that. I worked on just radiation. She got enough improvement. She didn't even need any more consultation. Then I just took about 3 consultations to, first of all, determine it was radiation, then to implement certain pieces of equipment, start off with cheap and then increase the expense of the equipment. 3rd consultation, she had such massive improvement. She was happy with that. It was a good result. So radiation can be a really big one. Environmental considerations additionally, bright lights, perfumes, noises, good ergonomics. So sitting over a computer, hunched, can be very bad. If you do that, if there's no way around it, set an alarm on your phone or a timer on your phone if you're 15 minutes at least, if not more frequently, to then stretch out. Do stretches in the opposite, in which you're holding yourself really quite frequently. Migraine Freedom Blueprint, summing up the key points. I'll just check the time again. It's a good bit of time. A detailed migraine diary, very powerful diagnostic tool. Track the migraines in detail. There's several migraine diaries available online. I do have the most detailed one I've come across is one that I've created myself. So feel free to email me and I can send you the migraine diary. And it can track the potential triggers as well. Consistent sleep, regular meals, hydration, but not too much hydration, as I mentioned. Daily stress management, universally beneficial. Dietary triggers, can hopefully determine them from an elimination diet. Obviously, eliminate the common triggers and the worst triggers initially. If they're still occurring, they might reduce the symptoms, but if you're still getting them, you might think, well, it's not food. Not at all. There's about 40 or 50 actually different types of foods that can trigger migraines. So dietary elimination can be very important. Consider nutritional supplements, as I mentioned before about magnesium. Avoid magnesium oxide. It's effectively useless. And get the citrate or the glycinate. It's also a tool called bisglycinate or diglycinate. That's a great form of magnesium. Feverfew, great. You grow it your own. If you don't want to grow it, I understand that. I used to be a brown thumb myself, not a green thumb. So I'd buy Feverfew. I had to go through about 6 different types of Feverfew, supplement Feverfew, until I found one that worked. And then the company, they stopped producing them, unfortunately. So then I had to go through quite a few others. If you want, email me and I can send you a recommendation of one that I found again that's quite effective for migraines. Riboflavin or vitamin B2. If you take that, take it in conjunction with a multivitamin as well. Be aware of the chance for neuralgia and nerve condition if you take too much vitamin B6. CoQ10. Explore other therapies such as acupuncture, physical therapy, yoga, Tai Chi, other modalities. Professional assistance, counseling, coaching, personal trainers, because if you start going to the gym, you really want to avoid an injury. So employ a personal trainer to, first of all, motivate you, give you the right exercises, and important for safety to potentially avoid not only injuries, but also straining. If migraines are triggered by a neck strain or shoulder strain, you really want to be doing exercises that don't aggravate that condition. Naturopaths, of course, and more practitioners. Homeopaths may be of great benefit to some people with migraines. So patience and consistency are very, very important. Natural healing isn't about quick fixes. Unfortunately, it would be great if we could just prescribe something and have people out of pain within a week. Unfortunately, it doesn't work like that. We gradually and consistently restore balance within the body. Celebrate the small victories. It's easy to get frustrated. This is a very frustrating path to go down. And it can be so frustrating to people like, I've tried all these things. Why on earth isn't something working yet? So it is really important to reinforce to your subconscious mind to celebrate those small victories. Each step that you take towards a healthy lifestyle is a step towards fewer and less severe migraines. It can feel like you're achieving nothing. I have a client who's been to me only a couple of times, and I've suggested all those dietary eliminations. I didn't emphasize the time frame. This person is a very intelligent person. They're very academic, and I mentioned it once, but didn't emphasize it. And they said, "Oh, I tried that, and it just didn't work." So they lost hope that there was actually food trigger. Need to give the food elimination at minimum for 2 weeks and preferably 4 weeks in order to see if it's going to make a difference or not. So the goal isn't necessarily to eliminate every single migraine forever. That would be a wonderful outcome. But if we can just restore health somewhat, make your frequency of that experiencing extreme pain less frequent, make your lifestyle a bit more enjoyable, that would be a fantastic outcome. To eliminate every single migraine forever, the only cases I've found with people who've been able to do that is if they do intense meditation. Not everybody has the mindset nor the time to do an hour and a half in the morning, an hour and a half in the evening of meditation. That's a lot. If people have really bad migraines, it is actually quite a reliable way to reduce them and hopefully get rid of them. But it's very challenging for many. So questions, some common questions may be, how long does it take to see results? Are there side effects of natural treatments? Can it combine natural treatments with current medication? What if they can't identify specific food figures? There's some questions, common questions that people have. Does anybody else want expansion on any of those questions or have questions of their own?
Yeah, Mark, hi. A couple of things. One on the CoQ10, the dosage that might be needed. Was reading something recently about the bioavailability of a lot of the common CoQ10 on the market is not that good and the benefit's not that high. What is there a particular type? I know ubiquinol's better, but very hard to find on the shelf regularly. What's your advice in regard to that one?
Yeah, good question. So the liquid capsule is some of the better ones. If it's dried, it's typically oxidized to a degree and it's not as good. What I've found is contradictory information. So it's a really good question with regards to the CoQ10. The contradictory information is that the research suggests that the CoQ10 is actually reasonably highly bioavailable. The information that is promoted about getting the high quality one, most of that information is actually from the supplement companies that want to sell their specific product, which, as you pointed out, is actually very expensive ones. And so if someone is on medication, and particularly cholesterol-lowering medication, because cholesterol, the CoQ10 is produced on the biochemical pathway about 2 or 3 steps prior to the production of cholesterol. So CoQ10 is actually stopped with the consumption of cholesterol-lowering medication. And if someone's on cholesterol medication, they can just try different types of CoQ10 and see if their energy levels improve, and then just stick with that one where their energy levels improved. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, well, yeah, sort of. So, well, the one about the information that conflicts a bit. That's probably the one because, but the dosage rate, like I take 150 milligrams as a recommendation from my naturopath, quite some time back. There's regularly like the 300, the high dose. So I was just looking at, is there really any advantage of having 300 against 150 as in actual for the product of CoQ10 as well? That's all. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question. So 150, because I don't want to go against any other naturopath's advice. That'd be a bit rude.
No. It was just recommended. I took for a while the product that he had, but then life events and stuff, I haven't been back to see him for quite some time. But yeah.
So 150 is actually the higher end of the range that you would need. Typically, most people could benefit even from as low as 25 milligrams, but generally a minimum of around 50 milligrams, which most of the supplements, they do have a minimum of 50 milligrams anyway. So if finances are an issue, which for a lot of us they are, I'd recommend just sticking with the 50 milligrams.
Yeah.
The 150 can be great. If you get a quality 150 milligram one, you could have it, say, for example, every second day, and then you're still getting the benefits from it. So, yeah, great question. Thanks, Jay.
Oh, right. And one other one, if I may. My daughter suffered from what we eventually, with a lot of medical inquiry and visits to hospital, what was called cyclical vomiting syndrome, CVS. And at first, the description was stomach migraine. So I'm just wondering, in what you say, well, you can have a stomach migraine, but this was happening to her at about age 10 years old. So, and we had to go through a process and then found out she's celiac. So there was a lot of, background to it. So when you talk about stomach migraine, how would you look at, and what's your knowledge of, and this may still be useful for her, because she still has issues at times, whether or not that the causations of migraine might be, other than her celiac status, might be other things that are triggers for it. There's a correlation there maybe.
Yeah, definitely. It is another really good question. So it is something I didn't bring up, is that gluten can be a common trigger for migraines, not for that many people, but for people the gluten is a trigger, they can find that they avoided all those common triggers. Eventually they avoid gluten and they resolve their migraines. So if your daughter is celiac, she most likely is avoiding gluten really strictly.
Yeah.
And she's probably not taking gluten, but if she's still getting the CVS symptoms or the vomiting migraines, it could be that she may benefit from avoidance of the other common triggers like chocolate, cheese, red wine, beer, and particularly canola oil, and nuts like almonds, macadamias, and cashews. Then there's several others on top of that. But if she was to avoid those for at least 2 weeks, preferably 4 weeks, then that she may actually experience further symptomatic decrease in her condition.
Yeah. Actually, we had to avoid, as part of the process now at Jog Memory, we stopped all seed oils. We didn't touch, and I've since found out that that's a benefit for all of us. But anyhow, so there was quite a bit of change that happened over a period of time. When like she was so severe, she was in hospital. Whenever she got a major attack, we had to get straight to hospital and on a drip for dehydration and all the other symptoms. So that persisted for 3 or 4 years before we really got the whole gist of it. So very interesting information. If I may, one more. Are there any identifiable that it's migraines from hereditary? If does it come down a pathway that you can go, oh, well, my mum's had it, now if I'm getting them, there's a hereditary pathway with it, or?
There is. That's
Something
another
like that.
really good question. So there are 2 genes that have been identified which have a very strong link with migraines, and there could be half a dozen or more. So there is a very strong genetic path for migraines. It's not necessarily guaranteed that any offspring will get migraines if the parents do get migraines. It seems to be triggered. So that the genes are the carriers, and it seems to be a trigger throughout someone's life that can contribute to the migraines as well. Just saw a long message there. So I think result is also can keep us to motivation, push us to make nice progress and find the new goals. Yeah.
To work through it. Yeah. I see what she's saying. Yeah. Mm.
Yeah. I got another question here, written question from King Josh.
You're all right.
Oh, sorry, Jay, did you? But they were great questions.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted a bit of information around that will perhaps be helpful in the future. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah. So
thank you
excellent. Thank you for the great information. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. And for people with, unless you've got, for example, children with migraines, it's hard to know the extent of the pain. The pain can be so bad, like with Jay, his daughter was hospitalised. The pain can be so bad that when it starts to come on, people can start to get really scared, really fearful of the pain of how intense it is going to be. It's like probably worse than some forms of torture. It's been said that trigeminal neuralgia, for example, the one that across here, the partial face paralysis, the red flushing, the sudden onset and sudden clearing lasts for a few short minutes to half an hour or so. That is really, really intense. It's been stated that is probably the most intense pain in the world. Migraines are actually a close second, but they actually last typically a lot longer duration than trigeminal neuralgia. So it gives you a bit of an idea of how actually painful, how debilitating migraines actually are. Since your daughter was hospitalised several times, that's extreme pain. I really feel for her.
Oh, look, it was very traumatic for my wife as the mother, I think, more. But look, that's it was just something that we worked through as parents and kids. Lillian has just asked a question about she wants to share her feelings and talk.
Yeah.
That's all.
And
Thank you.
hi, Matt. Glad to meet you, and I really like today's meeting, and I have been learning a lot. So I think for this part, I also learning some good things is way also can push us to finding the new habit and then see how much progress I have to make it with my progress, and also if they can have the good result to my motivation study. Eventually, I try to build up my confidence with the public speech. Sometimes it's pretty hard for me, but I try to want to motivation myself and also trying to achieve my goals in the public speaking. So I think this meeting I've really learned a lot with you, and thank you for your sharing, Mark.
Yeah, thank you very much. It was a little bit difficult to understand you, as you probably heard from earlier tonight. The speakers may be a little bit low. We've got a tiny bit of background noise, got a bit of street noise here going in the background.
She's expressing a lot of gratitude. I hear her expressing a lot of gratitude for being here.
Thank you. Yeah. I do get motivation, and motivation can be terribly difficult because it can be so depressing. We can't do all these things. We do the right thing. We sleep well. We avoid the foods. We do the exercise. and half a dozen other things. We can still get them. It can be very demoralizing. As I mentioned, there can be some things we wouldn't even think of, like radiation. There are, with almost anything, there's things that we can do. So, for example, with radiation, that can actually be a big trigger. It can be an expensive fix, but there's something like a mosquito net that sits over the bed. So even if we only get, say, 8 hours or so of protection from radiation, because in cities these days, it is actually impossible to avoid high levels of exposure to radiation. If you get this mosquito net type thing, it's not a mosquito net, it is actually an electromagnetic radiation shield. It's woven with silver lining through it, silver threads, and it blocks out 95% or more of the radiation. Even if you get one of those after trying everything else, these shields are worth about 2,000 Australian dollars, about
Hi,
1,400.
Marty.
So reasonably expensive. Things like that. Stick with the motivation, and if motivation to stick with the diet is affecting you, I'd recommend some coaching sessions. We've got, of course, a part of this program, they have a lot of coaches on, which is great. And so I appreciate your feedback there, the motivation and your gratitude. That's really wonderful. Thank you very much. So we had another question, a written question, which I wanted to address.
And Bernadette as well. If you can't see her hands up.
Oh, Bernadette.
Bernadette.
Yep, I'm looking for the written question. Bernadette, you had a
Yeah,
question?
stop me if I'm going sort of, all over the place. Thank you so much. I have one question about what is the optimal window of effectiveness of supplements, if there is one.
Yes, what do you mean optimum window?
Because, for example, let's say if you take calcium, for calcium to be absorbed, you need to have vitamin something, So in essence, how to say, for example, I'm great at buying, all those good stuff, supplements, and really I go to the source, I get, I know my supply chain, etc., etc. Good.
You've bought heart maths as well. You've bought heart
I have
maths
all
and
of
you've
them.
done coaching stuff as well.
I do my
You've done
heart math, though
Yeah.
not quite yet. But then I don't use them. I don't take them simply because my system, I can't take medication. Like I have a lot of diagnosis actually. I'm like, I would love to have a PhD. Why do I have all those titles? You name it. So I don't take, because I think for me it's more a matter of energy wise, because I'm very sensitive. I do have hypersensitivity to a lot of stuff actually. And so I buy all those, but then I have trouble with taking them. So is there any sort of, because also of the window of effectiveness. And plus also, because when we take supplements, they could be great, but if we don't have all the information to have discernment, the body, for me, my main concern is on the metabolism and on the liver.
Yes, really good question. So the answer is that it varies, as you would expect, significantly between supplements. The effective window of opportunity of magnesium, for example, can be about 3 months of taking high quality magnesium. It can be forever if you take the magnesium oxide, so avoid that. That just won't work no matter how often you take it. Having said that, magnesium oxide is actually a laxative. And so if you've got toxicity being absorbed from the intestines, that can actually help. So some people might argue and say, hey, hang on, I have magnesium oxide, it actually works. So what's going on there? So it's actually just a side effect of the magnesium, not actually the magnesium itself. So it can take up to 3 months or even longer of taking the good quality magnesium, which is the citrate, the glycinate, or even the threonate, particularly the citrate and the glycinate, for it to start to have an effect. With another supplement like turmeric, good anti-inflammatory, it can actually have an effect within 12 hours or so. Fish oil, I would suggest maybe about a week before we start to have an effect. Feverfew it will actually take around 6 weeks before it will start to have an effect, which makes it difficult because I mentioned before that the quality of feverfew varies significantly. You might be taking a feverfew that's not very good at all. And beyond that, you have to be on that for 6 weeks before you decide, man, this feverfew isn't working. Then you try another one. That can be a lot of wasted time. So let me know if you are willing to try the feverfew with the knowledge of those side effects. So keep them in mind. If you're going to take the feverfew, I will actually recommend one that I've found to be beneficial.
Yeah.
And some other supplements, just trying to think of the time frame. CoQ10 should start to work within about a week or so. Any of the antioxidants would work generally within about a week, and the CoQ10 is a fantastic antioxidant. Some other supplements. Let's go back and see what also.
And besides the supplements, I'm sure you also have a couple of, and we all probably know a couple of things we can do as we have the pills, you know, with the placebo effect, utilizing that, perhaps even giving, like a prayer, a prayer or gratitude for having it, you know, and being aware that every time we're having it, we're also actually focusing on improving that. And the fact that we are now focused on improving our health, you know, is that this response.
Yeah. I'd like to add there's placebo and there's nocebo. And for one, is that I make it a point to defy whatever my doctors, etc., are saying. And one more question is, how about how receptive is allopathic medicine? Are you based in Australia, Mark?
Yes, I am in Australia.
Okay, cool. Yeah. How receptive is mainstream allopathic medicine, I think it's called? To naturopathy, for example.
Yeah, so really good question. And I found that the supplement page. So ginger, for example, it will work in the short term. Feverfew will work in the medium to longer term. Magnesium will work in the longer term again. Riboflavin, it will take maybe about a week or so before it will start to work, and it will work then in the short term. CoQ10 will work in the kind of medium term, maybe a week or so. Butterbur, I don't know. Can't answer that question.
Yeah.
So
No,
I
my
guess that is
question was more about for mainstream sort of
yes,
medical profession to
yeah.
be
Just wanted to finish up the previous
sorry
point that
for
you
that.
raised, which was very interesting. You raised some really great questions today. So I wanted to cover that in just cover off the last part of that and then answer your next question, which was another good question as well. So as a naturopath in Australia, the younger doctors in particular are opening up to the benefits of natural medicine. Some older doctors are great. They're really open-minded to it. I used to work in a cancer treatment clinic, and it was actually run by an excellent doctor. So I worked there as the naturopath, and he employed me to work there. So he was very open-minded. We would have some clients come in with cancer who would come in tears. They were coming in tears because they had just come from typically an oncologist. They'd come in and they said, "Oh, I just had a consultation with my oncologist, and I mentioned about this therapy, which is the doctor-run clinic, which they had intravenous vitamin C, something called Ukraine therapy, which was an intravenously injected a herbal supplement, and several other natural therapies that they had at the clinic there. But just because they mentioned this, even though it was run by a traditional allopathic doctor, the doctor, their oncologist, their specialist they were dealing with, would be so harsh with them that they would come in tears sometimes. And other times people will come in and say, I've never seen that doctor out there who told me to come and see you guys. So the answer to the second part of the question is that some doctors are great, really good. They are becoming better in Australia, in my experience. But some doctors can be very narrow-minded, very stubborn, very rude, very abrupt. So did that answer the question?
I was thinking more of exosystemic level, because I don't know, our naturopath at the moment sort of, how to say, recognized by Medicare, for example, or not?
Not by Medicare. We
Not yet.
were private health insurance. We were covered by private health insurance until about 4, 5, maybe 6 years ago.
Okay.
We were taken off. It's just been proposed that we get reintroduced to the private health insurance. And I think what happened is it took several years for the private health insurance companies to realise that when people do go to naturopaths and massage therapists and acupuncturists, other natural medicine practitioners, just the umbrella fell over, the other practitioners, that actually saved the private health insurance companies money. I'm not sure if that's the case, so don't quote me on that, but we are about to be back reintroduced into private health insurance in Australia.
Okay. Yeah, I'll definitely touch base with you because I'm working in the allied health professionals and trying to bring, like the good medicine into the mainstream because it works, and my son and I, we are just living example, coming from a place of lived experience. So the only thing that's missing maybe is like evidence base. And I think it's how to say, for example, I do some work with diabetes in Australia. And again, so now they are diabetes educators are starting to be open to alternative, to functional integrative medicine. So so okay.
It's a really good point you raised about evidence-based and natural medicine. One of the criticisms of it back in the 80s was that, natural medicine, that's not evidence-based. And so a lot of organisations, they went heavily down the research side. With migraines, I'm sharing a lot from experience, some from research, but a lot from experience, because there isn't a lot of evidence-based research behind migraines at all. I suspect because it is such a difficult condition to treat, and many of the things are so long-term, like, for example, I mentioned magnesium can take 3 months, even sometimes longer, for it to start to have an effect. It's very, very difficult to measure for people in a clinical trial. That's a really quite a long-term clinical trial to have people on a particular supplement every single day. So, great point that you raised.
And I guess the hyper connectivity, we have today, and digital screen time doesn't help.
Yes. Exactly. The screen time, the artificial lights themselves, important for our own health to get outside and be exposed to the natural light.
Exactly.
We're exposed to way too much.
Less is more, and it's free. Just go out in nature and
Yes. Yeah. We're exposed to way too much artificial light. Not just the screen time, as you mentioned, but also LED lights, fluorescent lights, our mobile phones, the screens on
Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi. Some years ago, I was working with some people from Madagascar. I brought them to work in a cyber city. And I had a very weird, at that time, weird request because we had to provide them with accommodation. They didn't like the place because there was one of those, how do we call it? Those captors, like a cable for internet, like 4G or 3G, and their request, we want to change accommodation. And then I said, why? I was responsible for all the logistics at that time. And that was for a multinational company. And then they said, because you do have like a antenna, for mobile phone. And it's known that this is bad on male fertility.
Yes.
And today it's proven, because they are wireless isn't harmless. Because it's not because we can't see it, similar to electricity. Nobody's gonna go and touch, like a live circuit. So it's the very same thing. And people don't realize that. Yes, so that's something in this digital era where people are simply, I personally think we are over-connected. And this, in my personal case, definitely displays. So I love your input about just sitting in the dark. And for me, from time to time, I just switch off everything because you
Yes.
do have, how do we call it? Like electric, yeah, even when you have like people sitting, sleeping on electric blanket.
Exactly.
How do we call that? I think it's positive ions, something like that.
Well, positive ions are something different. They're typically produced by waterfalls or waves at an ocean. There are artificial generators actually, so positive ions, yes, I'm thinking negative ions. So negative ions are actually beneficial for health. If you have an
Exactly.
excess
So
of,
this is why we need to be
yeah,
walking bare feet. And
grounding,
yes,
yes,
yeah.
yeah,
It's really
yeah,
less is more. Yeah. Really, like, yeah.
yeah, yes, yeah, yeah. Yeah, great points. It's a great awareness that those people had to avoid the whole concentration of Wi-Fi and mobile phone radiation areas. Unfortunately, it's extremely difficult for most of us who live in the city. But yeah, great.
That's my
Great awareness.
battle. That's my current battle and my legacy.
Right. Yes. Ah,
Oh,
yeah,
good.
thank you.
Thanks
Any
so
And
other
much.
it's
questions?
no, I just want to say it's easy to say it's okay. Bluetooth headsets are safe. Everyone's using them. Bluetooth headsets are safe. Everyone's using them. It's not. Not
Exactly.
just because everybody's doing something doesn't mean it's safe. And even if it's a new thing and everyone's doing it, doesn't necessarily mean it's safe.
Thank you,
And
Adrian.
next week, someone's going to be here talking about finance.
Right.
And we're going to have something similar in the finance land, perhaps. We'll have some truths and some popular myths.
Yeah. I'll get to the page where people can contact me. So thanks for joining me today. I have a migraine diary that if people want this detailed migraine diary, they can email me at that address there. And I have a website. So essentially, just that one just says that acupuncture has a study to it. So interesting you mentioned about evidence-based. There are some evidence-based therapies for migraines. Essential oils, they can be a trigger, but they can also be a relief. So they can provide symptomatic relief, particularly peppermint or lavender.
Oh,
Can
yes.
alleviate symptoms. And
I'm a
then,
big fan. Yeah, definitely.
yeah,
But good
yeah.
quality one, though. It has to be therapeutic grade essential oil. It's not the thing we buy at $5, type of thing, though.
Yeah, exactly. Those $5 ones, they're often not the actual oils that you think. They
I call
smell
them
like lavender.
legal poison.
Yeah, they're synthetic. A lot of the cheap ones, they're actually synthetic. They're not the actual oils themselves. They're not lavender. They're not peppermint. They just smell like lavender, smell like peppermint. So, yeah, great point. Thank you very much. There's my website if anybody wants that, migraine-treatment.com.au. Great questions. Thank you, everybody, for your participation and questions. I went actually a fair bit over time. I apologise for that. Adrian wants to say something. You just mentioned about the finance person for next week. Could be interesting. And yeah, thanks everybody for your attendance and great questions.
Boom! You made it here! Good on you. Make sure you click the subscribe button below and check out the playlist at the end. If you'd like to come along to our Sunday sessions where we host a live, free Q&A for our students and members, you're welcome. I'll see you there.